some people go through life believing something is wrong with them. Like no matter how hard they try, nothing works. Doors close, people leave, plans collapse, and after a while, a quiet thought starts forming in the back of their mind. Maybe I'm cursed. But what if that thought is completely wrong? What if the very things you've been calling a curse are actually proof of something far more dangerous? A mark, not a mark of failure, a mark of selection. Because throughout history, the people God used the most were almost always the ones whose lives made the least sense in the beginning. So today I'm going to show you the signs, and I need you to stay with me, because the last one changes everything. Number 1, the pain that has no explanation. Let's start with the one most people try to ignore. Unexplainable pain. Not the kind you can point to and say, that's why this happened. No, this is different. This is when everything on the outside looks fine, but something inside you feels like it's breaking. You didn't see it coming. You didn't deserve it, and no one can fully explain it. Joseph lived this exact reality. He was loyal, obedient, faithful, and still, his own brothers threw him into a pit and sold him. No warning, no reason, just betrayal. And here's what most people miss. God didn't explain it to him in that moment. There was no voice saying, this is part of the plan. Just silence, just darkness, just pain. Because here's the truth most people never realize. Ordinary problems have ordinary explanations. But when God is preparing you for something extraordinary, the breaking won't match your current situation. It will only make sense when you reach your future. Romans 8:28 says that all things work together for good for those called according to his purpose, not some things. All things. That includes the pain you still don't understand. So if something in your life has hurt you in a way you can't explain, don't rush past it, because that kind of pain is rarely random. It's usually the first sign. Number 2, you don't fit anywhere. This one is quieter, but deeper. You've never fully belonged. Not in your family, not in your friendships, not even in places where you should feel comfortable. You connect with people, but there's always a distance, a feeling that you're different, and you don't know why. Moses lived like this his entire life. Born a Hebrew, raised as an Egyptian, accepted fully by neither. He didn't fit anywhere, and for years it probably felt like a flaw. But what looked like confusion was actually preparation. Because when the time came, Moses could stand in Pharaoh's palace and lead the Israelites out. He understood both worlds, and that only happened because he didn't belong to one. Here's the illusion most people believe. Fitting in means you're on the right path. But the truth is, when you are marked, you are often built for something that doesn't exist yet. So of course you won't fit into the current world. 1 Peter 2:9 calls you a chosen people, a special possession, not a mistake, not an accident, chosen. And that feeling you carry? It's not rejection, it's separation. And there's a difference. Rejection says you weren't accepted. Separation means you were set apart. Number 3, everything in your life is delayed. This is the one that breaks people, because delay doesn't look spiritual. It looks like failure. You had the vision, you had the calling, you felt it clearly, but nothing is happening. Time passes, opportunities disappear, and you start questioning everything. Did I hear wrong? Did I miss my chance? But here's what most people miss. The greatest threat to someone marked by God is not failure. It's delay, because delay creates doubt, and doubt makes you shrink. Abraham waited 25 years for a promise, not because God forgot, but because the promise required a foundation that took decades to build. Habakkuk 2:3 says the vision awaits an appointed time. Though it lingers, wait for it. Notice that. It doesn't say if, it says though, meaning the delay is expected. Here's the deeper truth. Most people want promotion, but they're not ready for the weight of it. Without preparation, elevation becomes destruction. Joseph had to go through the pit, the prison, the silence, because without that process, he wouldn't have survived the palace. So if your life feels delayed right now, ask yourself one question. Are you being delayed or are you being developed? Because from the inside, they feel identical, but they lead to completely different outcomes. Number 4, you are constantly misunderstood. This one hurts in a different way, because it's not just circumstances, it's people. You try to explain yourself, and it gets twisted. You speak truth, and it gets rejected. You act with good intentions, and it's questioned. And over time, it becomes exhausting. You start to feel invisible, or worse, misrepresented. David lived this reality, anointed as king, but treated like a threat, faithful, but hunted, chosen, but isolated. And in Psalm 22, he cried out, "Why have you forsaken me?" Here's what most people think. If people misunderstand me, I must be doing something wrong. But the truth is, When you are carrying something different, people who can't see it will misinterpret it. Not because you're wrong, but because they don't have the perspective to understand it. And here's the dangerous part. If you keep trying to be understood by everyone, you will eventually dilute who you are. Discernment is protection. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Number 5, your life keeps breaking right before it works. This is the most frustrating pattern. Things start coming together. You feel momentum. You think, finally, it's happening. And then suddenly it collapses. Again, and again, and again. Most people see this as failure. But here's the deeper truth. God often allows things to break right before they become permanent. Because temporary structures cannot carry permanent purpose. Think about it. If something keeps collapsing in your life, maybe it's not meant to hold what's coming next. Most people build fast, but God builds deep. And depth takes pressure. Here's what I need you to understand. The signs of being marked by God do not look like blessings at first. They look like confusion. They look like isolation. They look like delay. And the enemy uses those exact moments to whisper, "You're cursed. You're behind. You're forgotten." But Jeremiah 29:11 says something completely different. God has plans to give you a future and a hope, not confusion. Not destruction, a future. And here's the pattern you cannot ignore. Joseph looked forgotten right before elevation. Moses looked lost right before purpose. David looked defeated right before the throne. Every single one of them had a moment where the evidence said, "It's over." And then everything changed. So let me ask you something honestly. What if your life right now is not falling apart? What if it's being repositioned? What if the pain, the delay, the confusion are not signs of rejection, but signs of preparation? Because 2 Corinthians 4:17 says your present struggles are producing something greater. Then you can see God doesn't see your pain as permanent. He sees it as construction. And here's the final truth most people never accept. Being marked by God is not comfortable. It's disruptive. It separates you. It stretches you. It breaks parts of you that cannot go where you're going, but it also builds something inside you that ordinary lives never develop. So if you've been feeling like nothing is working, if you feel out of place, if your life has been delayed, misunderstood, and broken, don't rush to label it as failure. Because those exact signs have always followed the people who were about to change everything. Your story is not finished. You are not behind. And you are definitely not forgotten. You are in the middle of a process. And the next chapter will not look like the last one. If this message resonated with you, type "marked" in the comments. Just that one word. Because I want to see who is starting to recognize what's really happening in their life. And if you're ready to understand these signs deeper, stay connected. Because what comes next is even more revealing.